gonna fucking have you!
Dog Soldiers is the underdog werewolf gem you never knew you needed. If you've ever wondered what would happen if you dropped a group of British squaddies into the Scottish Highlands and unleashed a pack of hungry werewolves on them, wonder no more. Dog Soldiers is that fever dream made gloriously real. A film where werewolves meet witty banter and absurd levels of bloodshed. What's not to love? Forget your high-budget Hollywood werewolf sagas. Dog Soldiers proves you can do more with less, as long as you throw in enough sarcasm, squibs and man-eating wolves. And boy, does it deliver. The genius behind this masterpiece is none other than Neil Marshall, a director whose career was clearly born from a love of blowing things up and terrorising characters in remote grim settings. The screenplay, reportedly scribbled on the back of a blood-stained napkin, unconfirmed but plausible, brings together a ragtag group of soldiers with a blend of sarcastic quips, military jargon and the occasional F in L thrown in for good measure. Casting was an inspired move. Who needs A-listers when you can have an ensemble of hard-as-nails squaddies looking like they've just walked out of a pub brawl? From Sean Pertwee to Kevin McKidd, each actor delivers lines with a grit that says, "We might be surrounded by werewolves, but we're not missing tea time." Production was, unsurprisingly, as wild as the film itself. Filmed in the depths of Luxembourg, where the Scottish Highlands apparently hide out when they're not needed, the crew battled not only werewolves but the elements. It's a wonder anyone survived, both on and off screen. Rumour has it that the werewolf costumes were a delightful blend of old-school practical effects and sheer determination. The wolf suits were operated by dancers, which makes me think the whole film was probably just one failed jazz hand sequence away from becoming cats. But Marshall wisely kept the tone sinister. The result? A monstrous, terrifying pack that is somehow still more believable than most modern CGI monstrosities. Speaking of which, CGI in Dog Soldiers, please. If you're expecting a digital monstrosity a la Twilight, you're barking up the wrong tree. These werewolves are proper, menacing creatures, all practical effects and makeup that turn men into monsters without a single pixel in sight. In today's era of overly polished visuals, it's refreshing to see some genuinely raw, gritty effects. When limbs fly and intestines are casually reintroduced to the outside world, you can feel the handcrafting at work. It's like a good stew, hearty, a bit chunky, and definitely something you'll remember. Mark Thomas's score for Dog Soldiers may not be as iconic as some of the great horror soundtracks, but it absolutely does its job, setting the tone and making sure your heart never quite settles in your chest. The music swells and crashes with the action, using sharp staccato strings and pounding percussion to amplify the tension. Every time the werewolves are on the prowl, you feel it. Not just because you can hear the growling, but because the score makes you instinctively want to back away from the screen. Thomas didn't go for an overly complex or dramatic soundtrack, but that's exactly why it works so well. The score weaves itself into the film's DNA, never overpowering the action or dialogue, but instead creeping up on you when you least expect it. The use of sudden, sharp musical stabs when danger strikes is textbook horror, and it's executed perfectly. There's a deliberate ruggedness to the score. The sound design plays just as much a part in the film's success. From the crack of gunfire to the sound of jaws snapping, every detail is crisp, adding a layer of realism that pulls you right into the chaos. The growls, snarls and howls of the werewolves are bone-chilling. And then there's the silence. Dog Soldiers knows when to let the quiet moments stretch, the eerie calm before the storm of blood and fur. It's a soundtrack that knows when to be subtle, when to be loud, and when to let the howling do the talking. Now, this is a plot with a lot more teeth than expected. Dog Soldiers isn't about reinventing the wheel. Instead, it's about strapping that wheel to a tank, throwing it in the Scottish Highlands, and running over werewolves until you've got a bloody mess that's equal parts horror, action, and black comedy. The story kicks off innocently enough, if your idea of innocent involves military training exercises in the middle of nowhere. Sergeant Wells, Sean Pertwee and his team are dropped into the wilds of Scotland for what should be a routine training mission. And as with all great horror films, routine quickly becomes, oh dear God, what have we done? In a classic wrong place, wrong time scenario, the soldiers stumble upon the remains of a special ops team that has been utterly torn apart. No prizes for guessing what did it. Enter Captain Ryan, Liam Cunningham, the sole survivor. He's about as trustworthy as a politician during election season. Or you can say run for your lives, the group is being hunted by a pack of oversized, toothy werewolves. What follows is a frantic scramble for survival as the soldiers take refuge in a remote farmhouse, because of course there's always a conveniently placed creepy house in the woods. The problem: the werewolves aren't the only danger. They're also running low on ammunition, supplies and patience, barricading doors with furniture, throwing Molotov cocktails and generally doing their best to fend off the furry fiends. Just when you think things can't get worse, they do. Plot twists abound, with betrayals, last-minute escapes and gruesome deaths. The farmhouse becomes a battleground where every inch fought for is drenched in blood, and every quip about tea time is underscored by a fresh werewolf attack. It's not just man versus beast, it's man versus how many ways can we creatively kill a werewolf. Spoiler alert, a lot. The tension builds to a brilliantly chaotic finale, where it's hard to tell who's more dangerous, the werewolves or the soldiers desperate to survive. One thing's for sure, by the end you'll never look at a full moon the same way again. These are the soldiers you want on your side in a werewolf apocalypse. The cast, a motley crew of British squaddies who, despite their lack of name recognition at the time, turn in performances that make you believe they could single-handedly take on a pack of werewolves, or at least give it a good go, before becoming wolf chow. So let's start with Sean Pertwee, whose role as Sergeant Wells is nothing short of iconic. Pertwee brings a rough-around-the-edges charm to the role, the kind of leader who probably drinks his tea with a splash of petrol. Whether he's cracking jokes, barking orders, or bleeding profusely while refusing to die, Pertwee is the glue that holds the team and film together.
I thought I'd never see my wife again. Scares the shit out of me. Absolutely fucking top fucking bollocks. I expect nothing less than gratuitous violence from the lot of you.
As our de facto hero, Kevin McKidd's Cooper is the soldier you want in your corner during a werewolf invasion. With a mix of pragmatism, bravery, and just enough grumpy charm, Cooper is the beating heart of the squad. He's got a bone to pick with Captain Ryan, and watching their dynamic play out gives the film a delicious undercurrent of tension, which only adds to the chaos.
If you can't even kill a dog. I didn't say I couldn't kill a dog, sir. I just will not kill that dog for no reason.
The kid plays Cooper with just the right balance of grit and, I didn't sign up for this. Cunningham plays the role of Captain Ryan so well that you'll spend most of the film wanting to throw him to the wolves yourself. As the untrustworthy, morally ambiguous special ops survivor, Ryan's motivations remain murky at best. He shifts from ally to antagonist faster than you can reload a shotgun, and Cunningham's icy performance ensures that Ryan is both detestable and captivating. Then we have Spoon, played with wild abandon by Darren Morfitt. Spoon's character is, in a word, delightful. He's the quintessential British soldier with a wry smile and a knack for turning deadly situations into punchlines. His final showdown with a werewolf? Pure cinematic gold. If you ever wanted to see a man fistfight a werewolf with nothing but grit and sarcasm, Spoon's got you covered.
Come and have a go if you think you're not enough!
Cleeseby's Megan, the zoologist who provides some much-needed exposition, is the wildcard of the group. Her role shifts from ally to, well, let's just say she has her own hairy secret. Megan's knowledge of werewolves, while helpful, comes with a twist that throws the soldiers and the audience for a loop. The supporting cast rounds out the group with a mixture of gruff banter, loyalty, and that classic "I'm in over my head, but I'll give it a go anyway" attitude that makes British soldiers in films so endearing. Chris Robson's Private Joe Kirkley is the soldier who swings between gallows humour and genuine terror, adding to the film's relentless pace, while Thomas Lockyer's Corporal Bruce Campbell brings a stoic, no-nonsense attitude that offsets the chaos around him. Their camaraderie with the rest of the squad feels natural, making the moments of banter and horror all the more effective. Now, beneath the blood-soaked action and terror, Dog Soldiers explores deeper themes that add weight to the madness. First and foremost is brotherhood. The camaraderie between the soldiers is palpable, and their sense of duty to each other is what drives the plot forward. These men aren't just fighting for survival, they're fighting for each other. The banter, the shared suffering, and the sheer determination to keep going despite overwhelming odds are what make the group dynamic so compelling. Betrayal is another key theme. With Captain Ryan's shady motives hanging over the film like a dark cloud, he's a soldier, but his loyalty clearly doesn't lie with the men he's meant to be protecting. His willingness to sacrifice others for his own survival adds a layer of tension that keeps the stakes high and makes you question who the real monsters are, werewolves or the people pulling the strings behind the scenes. Then there's survival, the primal urge to stay alive in the face of terrifying odds. Each soldier in Dog Soldiers confronts this theme in their own way, whether it's Spoon's last stand, Wells' self-sacrifice, or Cooper's dogged determination to see the night through. The film makes it clear that survival isn't just about physical endurance, it's about mental toughness, loyalty, and sometimes pure luck. Last but not least, we have the nature of the beast itself, which comes into play, both literally and metaphorically. The werewolves are the obvious threat, But there's a deeper message about the animalistic instincts within all of us. When pushed to their limits, the soldiers, much like the werewolves, become creatures of instinct, driven by the need to protect their pack. In this way, Dog Soldiers blurs the line between man and beast, asking, who are the real predators? Now, Dog Soldiers didn't exactly break box office records. It's become a beloved cult classic, and rightly so. Critics appreciated the no-nonsense approach to horror, while audiences lapped up the film's perfect blend of humour, horror, and just the right amount of ridiculousness. Since its release, Dog Soldiers has solidified its place as a standout werewolf movie. While Hollywood continues to churn out polished CGI-heavy nightmares, this film remains a gritty, down-to-earth, if you can call werewolves earthy, horror with a solid fan base. The film's legacy is a testament to the power of practical effects and a script that doesn't take itself too seriously. So lock the doors, load the guns and hit that like button. Dog Soldiers is the epitome of how to turn a simple concept, squaddies versus werewolves, into a cult classic that delivers on every front, with its sharp dialogue, bloody practical effects, and a cast that feels like they could survive the apocalypse, or at least make a few sarcastic quips before going down swinging. This film is a masterclass in balancing horror and humour. It doesn't try to be anything it's not, and that's exactly why it works. With its pitch-perfect balance of gore, humour and sheer adrenaline, it's a relentless ride that never takes itself too seriously, yet manages to deliver on every front. The film's commitment to practical effects, paired with a cast that bleeds charisma, makes it one of the most memorable werewolf movies out there. It's rough, it's raw, and it's utterly unapologetic, just how a horror film should be. If you're in the mood for relentless action, snarling werewolves, and enough bloody carnage to make your head spin, then you've found your next film night. And remember, just like the soldiers barricading that farmhouse, you've got one simple job. Fortify your defences by smashing that like button. It's free, and unlike a werewolf bite, it won't come back to haunt you later. October is Horror Month on Geek Eclectica, so stick around for more. Let's face it, you're going to need all the help you can get when the next full moon hits.